You know, I was thinking you've given out a lot of information here about the changes that you foresee in the not too distant future. How quickly will these changes occur?
Some of them very quick. The process of sharing, the first one, will ensue over the next, say, 2 to 3 years. In my understanding, Maitreya is ready at any moment to reveal himself openly to the world, to come on television and to talk to millions of people. This will lead to the day of declaration in which he will declare himself as the teacher for this time, introduce the fact of his group, the masters of the spiritual hierarchy. Some of them are known from the past, like the Master Jesus, who is one of the main colleagues of Maitreya. And one day we will see Maitreya and the Master Jesus standing side by side. These great teachers will show humanity that the process of change is really very simple and will begin right away. There is a huge task of regeneration of the world. As everybody knows, the environment of the world is, the ecology of the world is being eroded on an extraordinarily fast rate. The greenhouse effect is changing the climate and so on. We have to tackle that. With the aid of the masters of the spiritual hierarchy, who have extraordinary powers besides extraordinary knowledge, we will indeed make those changes. And they will then create a world in which there will be plenty for everybody without destroying the ecology of the planet in the process, which is what we are doing today.
Now, I'd like to get back to the political side, the governmental side of what you see happening in the future. Right now we have two very solid blocks of capitalism and socialism or communism. How do you see that being affected?
Well, until recently, the political and economic division was the greatest. The political one is changing. The ending of the Cold War has set in motion a completely different process. And that was inspired by Maitreya through Mr. Gorbachev. He was responsible for bringing that about. The breakup of the Soviet Union was also prophesied, predicted ahead of time by Maitreya, and has led again to a complete change in the political structure. Humanity has been living under three great tyrannies: one political, one economic, and one religious. These are the major forces in the world which have kept humanity in thrall for countless centuries. The political tyranny is beginning to go. With the breakup of the Soviet Union, the imposed lack of freedom imposed by a small group on a whole group of nations, that is finished. It still pertains in places like China, but even there it is undergoing very fast transformation and will continue. And China, according to Maitreya, has a lot to teach the world in terms of social, political, economic interrelationships. The next to go is the economic one. That is just on the point of going. Maitreya has predicted a world stock exchange crash, which he said would begin in Japan. He made that prediction in 1988, and immediately the stock market of Japan began to fall. It has now lost about 60% of its value. He said this would have a ricochet effect across the world and bring down what he called the gambling casinos of the world. Some 98% of all the transactions in the world stock markets are to do with nothing other than currency speculation. And that currency speculation is at the root of the present economic problem for most of the governments of the world, because they're not in charge of their economy, because they're not in charge of their currency. You can't be in charge of the economy if you're not in charge of your currency. So the speculators can go round and round the currencies of the world, having a run on the dollar, a run on the mark, a run on the yen or the pound or whatever it is, and make their billions in this way. That is going to change. With the crash of the stock exchanges, the economic norms become possible of transformation, and that will be along the lines of sharing.
Now, people that have been participating in governments and leading governments seem to traditionally have been coming from the legal profession or from positions of military power or wealth.
This will change. Of course, there will be wealthy people and not so wealthy people. There will be military people who are right-minded and who have nothing but the good of humanity at heart. There are politicians likewise. But the area of government will change and become much more decentralized. This will allow participation of more and more people of all kinds, teachers, artists, doctors, anyone with a concern for the well-being of humanity, and the intelligence and the ideas to implement the changes will be welcome to take part in these transformations. And so a much broader and truer democracy will take place. Today, you join a party, Conservative Party, or Republican Party, or Democratic Party, you call it. In England, it would be the Conservative Party or the Labour Party. In other countries, likewise, they have these divisions. These are really out of date. Maitreya says a cart needs two wheels. It won't move with just one wheel. If that one wheel is capitalism, the cart is no good. If the one wheel is socialism, the cart is no good. You need a capitalist wheel and a socialist wheel, or the best of capitalism and the best of socialism. And that together will provide a reasonable, intelligent structure for the new governments, which will be a kind of democratic socialism or social democracy. And the symbol for this is the unification of Germany. Capitalist West Germany, socialist East Germany are now united 40, 50 years before anyone expected such a happening. And in that unification, we have a symbol of the future way forward for the whole of the world.
What is the actual technique? What are the steps that will lead to this synthesis, this sharing? You had mentioned briefly the United Nations will play a part in that, and that we will take inventory of the countries will take inventory of their resources, and then I assume barter for what they need.
Yes, a new United Nations agency will be set up under the jurisdiction of a master, or at least a very advanced, initiated disciple of one of the masters, so that all will be seen and impersonally worked out with, seeing it altruistically, not standing for any one country, do you understand? And in this way, the resources of the world will be shared more equitably around the world. The bigger nations will need more, the less smaller nations will need less, but everybody will get what it needs. This will presuppose a simplification of our life. The developed nations can no longer go on just profligately wasting the resources of the world. An area the size of Belgium is destroyed in the forests of the world every single day. There's a limit. From these forests come the oxygen which we need to breathe. So the whole thing must be transformed. With a group of masters, with the intelligence which is extraordinarily developed of the masters, we cannot have a finer group to advise and guide us into these transformations. But we have to do it. They're not going to do it, but they're going to inspire us to do it. Every step of the way must be put in place by humanity itself, so that our free will is not infringed.